To the race for 2012 now, and a series of grim headlines are mounting to pile on the president week. The latest polls paint the picture. A new Bloomberg survey putting the president's approval rating at 45%, the lowest of his presidency. Even in tried and true blue states, Obama's numbers are moving decidedly in the wrong direction. The president falling 15 to 20 points in California, Hawaii and New York. Couple that with an upset Republican win for Anthony Weiner's House seat in New York. And to hear some tell it, the president, well, he might as well give up now.
Now Californians have now soured on Obama. So if they find themselves in a situation where they have to defend California and they have to defend New York, it's over.
Indeed, it seems Republicans are already measuring the drapes for the Oval Office and getting a jump on the Veep stakes. Perry-Trump ticket, anyone? Well, who knows? The two had some FaceTime in New York City last night. Trump calls Perry a very impressive guy. And if that's not scary enough for you, how about this? The second coming of Dick Cheney. In fact, that's exactly what Mitt Romney would like to see.
I was watching C-SPAN and I saw Vice President Dick Cheney, and he was being asked questions about a whole host of issues following 9/11, the affairs in various countries in the world. And I listened to him speak, and I said, whether you agree with him or disagree with him, this is a man of wisdom and judgment, and he could have been president of the United States. That's the kind of person I'd like to have, a person of wisdom and judgment.
Here for more on all of this is Christina Bellantoni, Associate Politics Editor at Roll Call, with us from Cambridge, Massachusetts. And here with me in New York, MSNBC contributor and Democratic strategist Crystal Ball. Crystal, can I start with you?
Absolutely.
We were talking to Pat Buchanan earlier, and he was suggesting that the Republican win in New York is a significant swing against the president and Nevada, indicative of a national swing. But you write an op-ed today in the New York Post in which you say this has more to do with sexism, too much testosterone.
Well, actually,
how so?
It's more about a missed opportunity. You know, what we saw in the upstate New York district that went to Kathy Hochul.
The Chris Lee
Exactly.
election.
Chris Lee resigned after a sex scandal.
Yes, indeed.
And voters were anxious to have an alternative. Both parties nominated a woman. It was an opportunity to get another woman into Congress. In this instance, keep in mind there were no open primaries, so the party bosses chose this nominee, David Weprin, who was chosen more for his loyalty than his competence. There was an opportunity to get a more qualified, more electable woman in there who I think would have had a much stronger chance.
So do you really think Turner wouldn't have won if he'd faced a female Democrat?
I think that is a very strong possibility. Keep in mind, Turner was the founder of the Jerry Springer Show, so not exactly the best contrast.
Well, I don't know. For this current Congress, I think he's very well qualified. Christina, we know the president's struggling with his approval rating, but Bloomberg's poll still has President Obama the winner in a head-to-head matchup, beating Perry by 9 points, Romney by 5. So it's not entirely bad, is it?
No, and if you talk to any Obama campaign operative, they are going to say exactly what they said in 2007 and 2008, and that is, we're not looking at polls. Now, if any of us actually believe that, well, shame on us. However, they would like to say that if you believed polls in those early years of the presidential campaign, Hillary Clinton would be president right now. Rudy Giuliani would have been her matchup in the general election in 2008. So polls it's definitely early for that.
It's obviously
but at the same time,
early.
Yeah, but at the same time, they are concerned, and really some of the poll numbers that are troubling the White House in particular most are that right track, wrong track number, how people feel about the state of the economy. But what should be troubling members of Congress, which I think this New York 9 election was a little bit more about, and Crystal's right as well, it's also about whatever candidate you run, but it's about people being very frustrated with incumbency, frustrated with what's happening in Washington. And Weprin was sort of part of the Democratic establishment, and a lot of people looked at him as very, establishmentarian, and this other guy was an outsider, a businessman, now Congressman Turner. And so people turned to that. It wasn't necessarily about, President Obama or Anthony Weiner. It was more about not liking the establishment, and I think that's going to continue to be a message.
Mitt Romney, Crystal, continues to fare well in the polls, although Perry's gone ahead of him. But he had trouble, didn't he, last night, separating himself from his health care plan. Let's play what happened when he met some people in Arizona.
First of all, you're wrong, and let me explain why I said that, all right? First, it's not Obamacare. We had ours in place before Obama had his, all right? 4 years before. Massachusetts health care is the most expensive in the nation, and it was before our bill, and it was after.
Crystal, do you think that in addition to Perry's success, that Mitt Romney's problem with health care is slowly but surely reducing his number?
Well, I think Romney has a number of problems in terms of him changing his position. Health care is one of them. I mean, that's hardly an effective argument, saying, I was Obamacare before there was Obamacare, right? That's not going to resonate. But what's interesting, as we saw with Perry, I don't think Social Security and being too far to the right is Perry's problem. It's some of the issues where maybe he's a little soft on immigration, maybe this HPV vaccine issue. Same for Romney. If he starts looking again like the front runner, he is going to get hit for previous socially liberal positions, and health care is going to become more and more of an issue.
Christina, quickly if you can, what did you think of Mitt Romney's defense with that member of the public who started attacking him on Romney Care?
That was actually a really interesting exchange. I hadn't heard that yet, and I think that is certainly something that he's going to be up against. Republican base voters do not like health care. This is a big problem for him, and to be able to say, well, we were first, we were before Obamacare, is just sort of a strange line of defense.
Christina Bellantoni and Crystal Ball, thank you both for joining us.
Thank you, Martin.
More now on John Boehner's